State of the Union with John King, CNN Sunday, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern.
Let's go through some of the issues in closing that you raised. And let's start. You went through the spending issues pretty well. If you want to come back to them, please do. But let's start with the immigration debate. In the last campaign, you sparred with John McCain, who ended up winning the nomination quite a bit, saying, he was wrong on this path to citizenship or path to status, that people should get in the back of the line. That debate's about to come up again. There are many Governor Romneys, who say, let's just pass that bill, something like McCain, Kennedy, Bush. Let's get it over with. Let's get it done. The Chamber of Commerce says they want it. Put that behind you will help you rebuilding among Latinos. What would you do?
I have my own views about what I think that bill ought to look like. It happens to be consistent with what I said during the campaign. I'm not going to impose necessarily that on Eric Cantor, on anybody else. We can all talk about our views. But we should deal with the immigration issues right now. This is a high priority, urgent issue, and it's an issue that can also be demagogued. And it was demagogued, probably on both sides of the aisle during the last election, and I think that's a mistake. I think we should deal with this in a compassionate and concerned way. We are a party that welcomes legal immigration. We want legal immigration. It's been a great source of our nation's vitality. Illegal immigration, we oppose, and we're going to end. And we ought to deal with that on an accelerated time frame.
Healthcare is another big issue that's going to come up this year. You got beat up in the campaign a little bit by fellow conservatives who said, your approach had too big of a government role. Is the Massachusetts approach that was passed under Governor Romney, is that a good model for the nation?
Well, I think so, but I'm not going to impose necessarily my view on the National Council for a New America. We're going to exchange ideas, listen to people. I'll put forward my own perspectives. And my own view is pretty straightforward, and that is that we can get Americans insured. We can get virtually every American insured with health insurance without having to have government take over health insurance.
The president's going to try to move his plan while you're having this national conversation. And he has put in place the rules that will probably allow him to do it. Is he going to get his way on health care?
This issue of health care is way too big to be dominated or monopolized by one party. This applies to Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, liberals alike. This is health care. This is everyone. So I do think that it is a nuclear option. The president said to me he doesn't want to use that, but nor does he want to give us really any leverage. He said he doesn't want the Republicans to have veto power. I'm hopeful that that means we can work together. Obviously, the first 100 days, we have seen that bipartisanship and cooperation can be improved upon.
Since the last election, a number of states have moved ahead with same-sex marriage proposals. Some have done it legislatively, some have done it in other ways, some has happened through the courts, which I know both of you think is the wrong way to do anything, whether it's same-sex marriage or anything else. But if at the end of this conversation, you come to the conclusion that the consensus of the people you're talking to is to agree with what Steve Schmidt, John McCain's campaign manager, said, the Republicans are viewed as intolerant because we want constitutional amendments banning same-sex marriage. If at the end of this conversation you think the consensus is leave it to the states, which was Dick Cheney's position, that was Tom DeLay's position, be federalist and let state by state make these decisions. Are you both willing to support that?
My view I've laid out before, which is you really can't have different marriage provisions in different states and then expect people to be able to move around the nation and have different rights in different states. This marriage is a matter of national consequence. It's a status. It's not an activity, and as a result, there should be a national standard. And my own view is that marriage is a relationship between a man and a woman.
And so, if 5 or 10 states go that way, do you need to have a constitutional amendment, a national referendum? How do you deal with it?
I think Mitt has made the point that there are federal implications, there are national implications to what one state does in terms of the status of a married person in another state. I share Mitt's views. I believe in traditional marriage between a man and a woman. It's been that way thousands of years. And I believe that most of the American people, by far, apply or adhere to that principle. So I would continue to support the ability for us to say that's what a marriage means in America.
As you go into this effort, you have an array of people. Governor Romney, Governor Bush was here today, Senator McCain, Governor Jindal, Governor Barber. It's an impressive group. You're going to travel the country and you're going to listen. As you launch this effort, anyone who picks up Time magazine this week and sees the 100 most influential people will see 2 Republicans in that magazine. They'll see Sarah Palin and Rush Limbaugh. Is that helpful, hurtful, indifferent?
Listen, You know, they are two individuals that have a lot of ideas, and our party should be about ideas. That's what this effort is about, the National Council for a New America, and that's what they're about. So I don't think any of us should have any monopoly on the ideas, and I know that there are some who like to make it all about personalities, but it's about ideas. It's about how we take this country forward.
Gee, I'd like to have a lot more influential Republicans. I think there are a lot more influential Republicans than that would suggest. Was that the issue on the most beautiful people or the most influential people? I'm not sure. If it's the most beautiful, I understand. We're not real cute.
Some Republicans, when they talk of President Obama, say, you know, he blocks the sun at the moment. He's the dominant figure in American politics. Everybody learns from the opposition. What are you learning from him?
Oh, he's a very effective speaker. He's been able to communicate extraordinarily well with the American people, not just through his addresses, but also through the town hall process. He continues to campaign, if you will, even though he won. He's out doing the things he did before the election. He brought Axelrod into the White House. When George Bush brought Karl Rove in, while there were all sorts of fireworks about, wow, you got a political guy in. Well, I guess we've gotten used to that. He's brought in a political guy that helps manage the communication. It's worked extremely well. Communicating is a big part of leading a nation. I think he's done that. I think he's done that well. But at the same time, I think he's making some very serious errors. I think, if you will, abrogating his responsibility for the stimulus and passing it along to Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid was a mistake, and that's going to come back to haunt him. And I think the budget he's put forward really sows the seeds of economic distress down the road, which will also be a problem for him.
How about you?
Yeah, listen, I agree that President Obama is a great communicator. We understand that. He's also been very adept at adopting the technology of today to access the youth vote and the younger population of this country. That's the future, and I believe we've got a lot to learn. The Republican Party can't keep doing things the way it always has in terms of technology. And as you are beginning to see, we have a website here with this group called WeThePeoplePlan.org that we are actively trying to engage in a much broader discussion with a much more diverse population in this country.
Is he entitled to his pick for the Supreme Court? He won the election, or are there certain lines that you would draw where you say the Republicans should engage in full combat?
There's no question that this is a national issue. This should not be a decision that the people don't have some impact on. We know it is a nomination by the President and a confirmation by the Senate, and it is very important for all of us to understand who the nominee is, what that nominee has done on the bench, and the impact that nominee has had on people's lives.
But you can't stop him from nominating someone who might be pro-choice. You can't stop him from nominating someone who might be outside of your views on marriage. So how do you draw the line if a Republican senator called you and said, you know, advice, should I be for or against? Where's the line?
Well, what you want to see is the president choose someone of unquestioned intellectual capacity that's made important and critical decisions in the past well, and a person who believes in following the law, who respects the fundamental process that's been outlined in the Constitution of how laws are created. You do not want to have him select somebody who believes that they, once they become a judge and are going to be in that position for the rest of their life, can do anything they want, can create law from the bench. That's what you don't want to see. And I doubt that Barack Obama is going to put forward the same nominee that either Congressman Cantor or I would put forward. And elections have consequence. He'll put forward someone different than that. But the key thing, and the place where I think we draw the line is this an individual who will follow the Constitution and the law, or is this an individual who believes in making the law? And if it's the latter, I think we should stand up and scream loud and hard.